Good evening. Welcome to the regular City Council meeting of September the 18th. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Could we have roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Ferrer-Rivas.
Here.
Councilmember Wellender.
Here.
Councilmember Dean.
Present.
Councilmember Lowe.
Present.
Mayor Gurney.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. There was no closed session to report on, and so we'll move to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve said agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Ferrer-Rivas.
Aye.
Councilmember Wellender.
Yes.
Councilmember Dean.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe. Mayor Gurney.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
All right. First thing on our agenda, item number 1, Chief Cutting will brief us on evacuation and emergency preparedness.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the time and community for being here and listening to this. I don't have quite the audience that we had for fire last meeting, but that's okay. I just wanted to talk real quick and remind everybody of the evacuation process for emergencies that could happen to the city, valley, and the county really at large. The beginning of this process is, how do you know if something's going on in the city or the valley area? And there are several processes that law enforcement and fire use. One of those, they are subscription based in the fact that you have to put in a phone number, an email, or a landline. So they're called subscription based, but they are free. SoCo Alert is the primary one for large scale emergencies, and that is accessed through socoemergency.org. That one does have the ability for a landline, so if you don't have a cell phone or you're not a text-savvy person and you need to receive that phone call with a voice, SoCo Alerts works in that fashion. Nixle is the utilized service that law enforcement uses the most, because we don't just use large-scale emergencies in there, we also do neighborhood issues. If there's a gas leak in your neighborhood, we'll utilize Nixle to put that out. Unfortunately, Nixle is only done through email or text, so you would have to enter your cell phone or an email. And then there's non-subscription based. These are the things that we actually sort of take over in a real emergency. The WIA, the wireless emergency alerts, that is something that your phone doesn't have to have, you don't have to subscribe to. We will set an emergency off in an area and it will overtake your phone with a very loud, what I would refer to as obnoxious sound, and then there's a message that comes across it after that. Emergency alert system is what you all accustomed to on your TV or your radio when the flashing tone comes on, and then there's a message that follows that. Also something to pay attention to. And then the last one is our high-low siren. So all law enforcement vehicles in the county and most of the state have gone to a secondary siren that we have attached to our car, and we only use it for an emergency, mostly specifically for evacuation. So it's a very distinct tone. You wouldn't hear it any other time. And if you hear a car, it's actually set for decibels for hearing impaired to be able to feel a little bit of the vibration from it as well. That gets us to the zones, and Sarah was nice enough to bring in some copies of the zones, the evacuation zones for the city, and handed those out to the audience, and we have more for council if you need them. But the zones are set so that we can systematically conduct an evacuation based on the threats coming into the city or that start in the city, and without evacuating the entire city at one moment, clear an area to make it safe. I'm bringing these up, and I have these on here in the map on the screen, a little different than they are on the printout, because it's also important to know what your neighboring zones are. Because if your zone is not an evacuation area, but it's an evacuation warning zone, or the zone next to yours is in one of those two cycles, you should know, because your zone may become the next one to go into either a warning or an evacuation. Warning means there's a problem coming towards you, and we want you to be alert. We want you to start planning for an evacuation. Usually the warning will come with some instructions or at least an acknowledgement that there's a problem coming your way. An evacuation order comes out, and we do ask you to leave immediately. And those are well stated when they go out. So this is zone SOA1, which is the northwest corner of the city, and its perimeter is county zones. So when you hear a zone evacuation with just the first two letters SO, that's Sonoma. SON is county, so Sonoma County. So you know that if you're in the city limits, your zone is going to start with SO, and if you're in the county, it's going to be SON. And again, these zones can be found from the SoCo alert page or SoCo emergency page. Also, the City of Sonoma's page under emergency procedures, the sheriff's page under emergency procedures, and the the SoCo alert, SoCoEmergency.org page, which we've already seen. This is SO B01, which is the northeast corner, and then we go to the southeast corner, and then the southwest corner. So you should know what your zone is in the town, in the city. And then the biggest thing is just plan ahead. Have a plan for your house. Have a plan for your family. If you don't live in the same home as family in the area, make sure you guys have a plan for all types of emergencies, whether it's a earthquake emergency or a fire or a flood. Have a plan so that you could have an off-site family member that you can call if phones go down here. The one thing that everybody needs to remember is we've had in all the fires, phones get inundated and cell towers go down, and then our cell phones that everybody's relied upon for so many years are ineffective. So you should have some out-of-the-area contact that if you have multiple family members so you can get in touch. Cousin in another state that you can call and say, I'm safe, and then your other family members can do the same. And then the real big thing here is under SoCo Emergency's webpage, they actually have a planning guide on there. So if you have family that are elderly or are having some type of issues that they may need some assistance, go to that page. There's a plan on there you can print, and you can write everything out so that they know exactly what to do, and there's no issues with a situation when it actually happens, so that you're not scrambling trying to get to them in the middle of an evacuation. Everybody should have a plan. And if any of your family members are in a facility here in the city, all of the care facilities in Sonoma have plans. They have plans for transportation. They have plans for shelter in place. They have plans for just about every emergency that could potentially happen. So know what their plans are so that you can meet your relative at the other end of that emergency. And that is it. Any questions?
All right, any questions from council?
So what happens with just the odd street that's sort of not incorporated into the city of Sonoma but is in that basic quadrant?
So the city limits are, the exterior of them are included. So if there is, in the zones themselves, they are based on the mapping is exact. There are little county pockets in almost every city, but they don't fall under the county evacuation process. They would fall under these mapping zones.
Right. So for example, I'll give you a concrete example, sometimes it's helpful. On going down 5th Street West, to the left is Harrington Drive. Okay, so Harrington Drive kind of makes an L around there, and it's not, but it's basically surrounded by the city. So they would be in our zone. They would not.
So not all of Harrington Drive, for example, is in our zone, but when you first turn off of 5th Street West, it is. And then everything on the north side of it is within the city's zone. The south side is in the county zone. And that's one of those areas where if the city, so SOD01, were to go into an evacuation order, that county pocket just to the south of that would likely either be in an evacuation warning or may also be in a mandatory evacuation as well. It just
Okay.
depends on the emergency.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Ding?
I don't have a question at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, seeing none other, would the public like to make any inquiries about this? Public comment? Mr. Evans?
Thank you, Whitney Evans. And thanks to City Council declaring Sonoma Valley a dementia-free area, it motivated every Rotary Club here in Sonoma Valley to work with police and fire in identifying people with special needs, be it dementia, be it wheelchairs and whatnot. So it really will enhance the effectiveness of our operation, and it all started with you guys, so thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to ask a question or comment? Seeing none. Chief, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is comments from the public. And at this time, members of the public may address the council on matters that are not listed on the agenda, but which are within the subject matter and jurisdiction of the city council. The public comment period will be limited to 10 speakers. Anybody who doesn't have the opportunity to speak at this particular public comment may do so at the end of the meeting when we will open up for public comment again. So if anybody would like to address the council on something not on the agenda, please step forward and pronounce your name and please.
Thank you very much. My name is Jim Silverman. I live at 1535 East Napa Street, and I'm here to report on the Sonoma Plaza History Project, which was produced with the Sonoma Community Center. I'm pleased to report that it's now complete. It's free, it's non-commercial, it's a self-guided online tour of the Sonoma Plaza. There are 5 distinct tours organized around art and nature and buildings and memories and wine. And it's the art that I'm really here to talk about tonight. But while I go and get my art piece, I'd like to share first these Sonoma Plaza history hunts that were designed by the Kid Scoop artist and sponsored by Rotary. So I'd like to show you what I've brought to share tonight. So many of you know Mike Acker, local artist. The Sonoma Plaza History Tour commissioned him for artwork that portrayed Plaza history. He delivered a 32-foot panorama of the 4 streets around the Sonoma Plaza, each of which is composed of a 19th century street map, an overlay of past and present, and a lineup of people who lived around the plaza. I've curated them as videos with my son, Maxime Simonet, who some of you know, and they are all available on this website, the Sonoma Plaza History Tour. More to the point, my reason for being here tonight is I would ask the city to consider purchasing Mike Acker's original artwork for this. It's significant, it's informative, it's a large piece of art. Each of the panels is 3 by 4 feet long. So each street is represented by an 8-foot span. It's significant. It's at the community center, if any of you would like to take a look at it. These aluminum panels are for traveling exhibits. I'm hoping for them to go to the library and La Luz and elsewhere around the community. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Next speaker. Come on down. Seeing none, I will close public comment and we'll move on to council members, meeting dedications. Any dedications to be had? Hearing, seeing none, we will move on to council members' reports and comments, and we'll work our way around the dais. Mr. Wellender.
I have only one semi-unofficial event to report. I was hoodwinked last Tuesday by my city manager to welcome a group of individuals that were attending the After Fire Conference at Hannah Boyce Center. Had a chance to meet I believe the mayor of Maui and others that were gathered to hear how we can collectively support one another when we go through disasters like fire. And I believe that I welcomed about 20 people, and the city manager allowed me to go home after an hour, so that's it.
All right, thank you. Is hoodwink a technical term? Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Lowe.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up at the last meeting. I mentioned that, as many of you know, I'm on the Sonoma County Transportation Authority, and I brought up to them that the congestion on where 116 and 121 will be a roundabout is quite intense. And I know I waited a half an hour while everybody was waiting to turn right to go to Napa to go straight to go home. And now I'm seeing people cut through the gas station, go around over the hill. And so I wanted to just share with you some of the things that they're going to be doing, hopefully, to make this a better situation. So I'm reading directly from the executive director, his email to me. The backup at the intersection of 116 and 121 was discussed at the weekly construction progress meeting. Staff requested that multiple options be considered, such as restriping or temporary signal. Unfortunately, there's not enough room to restripe for an additional turn lane at that location. Additionally, the slip ramp that has been removed, causing the delay, will be restored by late October, according to the current schedule. So that's good news for us. Caltrans staff indicated that the review process for installation of a temporary signal would take weeks to be reviewed and approved, and the ramp will be open before the review process would even be completed. They did agree, Caltrans, to issue a traffic advisory warning to expect delays at that location, and the contractor will be installing changeable message signs on the approaches to the intersection with a similar message. The SCTA staff will work with the public information officer to make sure that the traffic advisory goes out. And I just wanted to share that because I know a lot of us go through that and are trying to figure out ways to avoid it, and I just decided to take it on, and so now you know a little bit about what's going to happen. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well done. Mr. Ding.
I don't have any reports.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Farias.
So there was not a Sonoma Clean Power Board meeting this month, but I did attend an event put on by the Bay Area Council, Climate the New Frontier, with our Lieutenant Governor, Alina, and I'm going to pronounce her name wrong, maybe Konalakis. Did I do that correctly? I don't know. Look at Sandra. Probably Lieutenant Governor of California. Yes. So
Konalakis.
Thank you. I almost got it right. So, so she was just talking on advances in regards to climate change in the state of California and priorities. Some of the goals are to have California carbon neutral by 2045, 100% carbon-free electric grid by 2035, all new car sales to be EV. On the progress side, we're at 60% of the goal of electrification of the grid, of the power grid, and in the last 365 days, 140 days operated on 100% clean energy. I won't go over everything that went in, but just some of the highlights. And then the priorities, of course, are expansion of wind, solar, battery storage, transmission, and offshore wind. And I encourage them to also make sure that they're prioritizing geothermal, which is one of the projects here in Sonoma County. could be very significant for us in regards to electrification. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I attended on September the 12th, the Tourism Improvement District meeting. It's a regular public noticed meeting. And rather than go into any detail, I know that they're here tonight to make a presentation, and so we'll just save all that exciting information for later. The 16th, last night? No, the Monday night. I attended an event for KSVY, and I just wanted to reemphasize what really came out thoroughly at this event. It was the importance of KSVY, whether it's emergencies or just communicating from the city to the public. There's so many things that they do, including televising this meeting. And so I would just like to encourage everybody to support that organization. It is a nonprofit, and they can't advertise, which is something I didn't know. And so it's completely community-supported operation. And if you benefit from them, and I assure you that you do, so support them. I also, yesterday, the Vice Mayor and myself had a Finance Committee meeting, and we covered a number of items. Some of them we'll be talking about tonight as well, but it was actually pretty darn interesting. We've got a lot of things going on, including an investment policy review and update for the council to approve annually, actually. So that's that. Everybody may have gotten something in the mail that looks a little bit like this, Ballot Measure T. And I just wanted to point out, because I tested it today, there's a, what do they call these little scan? QR code, thank you. Anyway, and if you are curious to get more information about why we've put this on the ballot, it's on the city website. The QR code will take you right to that information, and you can review that and study it appropriately. I would also like to say that we are recruiting for a library commissioner. And this position sits on the County Library Commission and represents the Sonoma Valley and our local library. For some reason, there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest, so I'm sharing that with you with the hopes that maybe Bill Lynch might step up now that I think about it. And but we really would love to have local involvement and participation in that. So if you know somebody, they can contact the city clerk, Rebecca Barr, and they can get a job description and certainly an application. So please share that around.
And that is a valley resident, not a city resident. Is that correct?
Technically, it could be anybody in the county, but we want
Oh,
somebody
good.
to represent the valley,
Great.
the city. Yeah. 95476. Do you have a sweatshirt that says that? Okay. And last but not least, as I sit here, I look around the room and I see all these Vintage Festival posters, and I believe we have a celebration coming up. And so I hope you get to appreciate the talent and the exhibit that is here tonight. So with that, I will conclude my remarks and we'll move on to perhaps the more interesting items. And starting with the city manager report.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And I was informed that our city YouTube channel is having some glitches, so if you are having trouble connecting, you can always watch these meetings live on Sonoma TV's YouTube channel or our civic web portal, which you can get to from the city's webpage. So if you need to get access a different way. A couple of updates. We are, speaking of the libraries, we're working with the libraries and the County Department of Emergency Management on a plan to utilize our local library here for emergency warming and cooling center as we move into the winter. We're preparing for that. So we're hoping to have something in place that we can announce and push out to everybody so we have a location and a plan in place. So I'll keep you and the community updated on that as we move forward. In addition, the last meeting, the City Council approved 2 new vehicles for our public works crews, pickup trucks. They're electric pickups, fully electric. Those are here. They're actually active and they're being put in use already. So they're around the streets. You'll start to see them around. They'll have soon they'll have some zero emission branding on them, so you'll know exactly what they are. They'll stick out so you can see what's on the road. Another update for the council is I know there's been some questions about our front counter availability throughout the day. So Monday through Thursday, currently we're open from 8 to 5, but we're closed during the lunch hour. Starting October 7th, we will be open through the lunch hour. So the staff is going to be alternating schedules to make sure we have coverage during the lunch hour Monday through Thursday. And then on Fridays, you can always make an appointment to come visit us, or we have a lot of information online. You can do your permitting online. Reach out if you have questions on that. And see, just as a reminder, I will be at the International City Managers Association meeting starting on Saturday. So I will be back in the back here Wednesday, and I'll be happy to share what I learned there and bring back from that meeting. And then finally, one of the more exciting news is we finally have a full planning team. And to complete our team, we've brought on 2 new planners. I know Jennifer is ecstatic to have support to get all her long list of policies and projects done. So first off, I want to introduce Diane Levine, who is here in the audience. She came to us from Yountville, and sounds like she had her first planning commission last night. So just right into the fire, and she's off and running. So thank you and welcome aboard. And then sitting next to Diane is Jacob Dunn, who came to us from Humboldt County. And he's moved down here to Rohnert Park, so he's down in Sonoma County now, and he's bringing a lot of experience from his work up in Humboldt County down here. So we're excited to have them, and I know Jennifer's already thrown an entire list of projects at them. So yeah, she's probably smiling behind me. I can't see her, but I could feel it. So we're excited. So thank you, welcome. Glad to have you here. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. City Attorney.
That was a great report. Thank you, City Manager.
I can't follow that, so I'll just have no report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. So all the items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon in a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the council.
I don't have any. If not, I will move to approve. Or we need to open to public, right?
Yes. But go ahead, finish your statement. Okay. So, having said that, anybody in public wish to comment on anything that's on the consent calendar? Don't everybody speak at once? All right.
I move to approve.
Hang on. Let's bring it back to the council. Mr. Wellender, do you look like you
I
need to say
don't
something?
wish to pull anything, but I do have a comment on 7.4.
Okay. Would you like to make your comment now?
My comment is because of the uncertainty of our potential school closures, I know that part of the scope includes a fairly significant Sasserini pathway. And I'm not saying that it's not justified if the school gets closed down. I just would like to encourage the consultant team to be mindful of that with the reality that down the road that parcel could be changed in use.
Just want to acknowledge that statement. I do sit on the school closure committee with the school district. The timeline for that decision to bring to the school board is by the end of the year is their goal. So we'll have that information fairly shortly, and we'll be sure to incorporate that and coordinate with the school district on that item.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other comment from the council, Mr. Ding, you started a motion.
I move to approve consent calendar.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Farrar Rivas,
Aye.
Councilmember Wellender,
Yes.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe, Mayor Gurney.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
All right. No public hearing this evening, but we will move to the regular calendar. And item 9.1 is to have a public meeting to renew the Sonoma Tourism Improvement District. Mr. Ewan.
Thank you. And this is one step in the process. The previous step that you initiated the process at a previous meeting. This item tonight is just a public meeting, so it's an opportunity for a little discussion about what this is and provide an opportunity for the community to ask questions, provide comments. No action by the council tonight. This will come back in November for action. So there'll be time again during a public hearing in November to take action. But again, tonight, no action is needed. Tim Zahner from the head of the Tourism Improvement District is going to give a short presentation on what it is, what they're proposing, and what this will mean for us as a community. So I'll invite Tim up.
All right, thank you very much, and good evening, Council. Thank you very much for having me here. My name is Tim Zahner. I'm with the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau. I'm not on the TID, but I help manage the TID on their behalf. Behind me, though, I do have members of the Tourism Improvement District, including Norman Krug, Dan Parks, and behind that, Justin Wilson and Kevin. And Kevin, I forgot your last name. I'm sorry. Thank you. With MacArthur Place. So I apologize for forgetting your name, Kevin. I'll get that better next time. I have a presentation, and we'll be off. So the Sonoma Tourism Improvement District comes about from legislation that happened in 1989. The first one was in West Hollywood. Since then, there's been 111 TIDs founded in California, and there's more than 200 now in the United States, including states across the country. Our TID was established in 2012 at the request of the lodging businesses, and what they do is they assess a 2% assessment on top of the hotel tax bill that goes to the TID, and the TOT, the transient occupancy tax, goes to the city. Tourism improvement districts have some quick rules on how they're supposed to work. The funds must be spent on the services and improvements that provide a specific benefit, specific only to those who pay, and the funds cannot be diverted to other things, but it's customized to fit the needs of those in each destination. And they're designed, created, and governed by those who will pay the assessment. They also provide a stable, long-term method of funding and ties the success of the TID to the TOT. Here's kind of the 10-year history of the TOT, the hotel tax, and the TID. You might notice the blue line is the TOT. There was quite a jump there. That is because we increased the TOT, and a portion of those funds went up from 9% to 13%. So what does the TID do? They provide funds for things to get people to come here, most hopefully during November through April, and Sunday through Thursday, what we call midweek and off-peak. One of the biggest things we do is lighting of the plaza. Advertising time, Saturday, November 23rd. Put it on your calendar. It's coming back up. So that's one of the big things we do. We also provide funds to organizations in the hopes that they would generate business to come here. Those include things like Así Danzan los Niños by Grupo Quetzalán. They have a dance troupe there. We had music on the plaza during the holidays. We had Sonoma Arts Live, Sonoma Valley Museum of Art, Sonoma International Film Festival, and then Dia de los Muertos Festival from VITA. These are an example of the groups that can apply for those grants. Grants are still open until the end of this month, so if people are listening, please apply, and we can get you that form. We also provide funds for things that are thought of being culturally significant to Sonoma. 4th of July, Vintage Festival, and reminder that this Vintage Festival this year is a celebration of 200 years of wine grape growing in Sonoma Valley. So here's how we also do things. We do paid advertising. We buy ads. Most people here in this room won't see the ads because we're not targeting you, but we're targeting people from outside the area, predominantly on the West Coast, and those who are likely to generate a visit to Sonoma. I want them to come here and spend the night. We also do media relations. It's the Houston Chronicle on the left, Coronado Magazine, and then also Curb Free with Corey Lee, who does accessible travel. And we brought him in here to talk about how you can travel in here in a wheelchair. Then we do social media. You probably follow us on all the usual socials. So Facebook, TikTok, yes, we're on Twitter still, and some of the other usual places. We're also on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is trying to get meeting planners here to bring in and fill our hotels midweek. So here's kind of how the cycle goes. The TID funds promote visitation through advertising and marketing and promotions and events, and it allows the city to remain competitive against other destinations that are also out there promoting. This brings in visitors, many of whom hopefully spend the night. For example, I put up the El Pueblo or the Inn at Sonoma, and then they go to restaurants, and then they go to tasting rooms, and then they go to art galleries, and they go to shows, and that helps the small businesses here that are locally owned, sort of a virtuous cycle there. that is my brief presentation. I was told to be good, be gracious, be gone. I will answer any questions. Otherwise, I will be gone.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Zanger? Yes? Mr. Dean?
Tim, thank you so much. That is a wonderful report. Volunteers working with you are so impressive for visitors, even for our local people. How many volunteers you have?
Thank you, Councilmember Ding. We have about 30 volunteers now. We're always looking for more volunteers, 2-hour shift. So we have volunteers. A lot of them are people who have often retired here and still want to be active, and they're wonderful. And they get to sit outside in the cart and talk to people. And that's managed through the Visitors Bureau. But yes, they're great, and they are kind of the first point of contact for many, many visitors.
That's great. Do you give them any training or history
Oh, of
or
course.
the buildings?
Yes,
Yes.
we do. Actually, Mr. Silverman just left. He's one of our big training things for the history. We do a training with all of our volunteers. We are also working with Sonoma County Tourism on their accredited hospitality professional program, which trains them about the county and not just Sonoma. And then we have ongoing trainings with them. You know, we'll do trips and we'll talk about things. We also have the history, the wine culture. So absolutely, we won't just throw you out there. I mean.
And also, I take this opportunity, want to say thank you. You did a lot of the extra work, because the TID usually, just like you said, dedicated for the tourism to promote in the city. But and you also take some responsibility to receive delegations, for example, in Ukraine, because they are coming here. It's not for fun, and that is another charity or other. And country to country relationship.
Right.
But I know you provided a financial support. That is we appreciate it, but, this money should be, in my opinion, and, you did an extra work for the charity reason and for the, other goodwill reason. That is so much appreciated. Thank you.
I'm glad we can help. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Did anybody else from your contingent want to address the council?
If you would like to come up and talk, you may. If you don't have to, no. I
Okay.
think they're okay.
That works. All
Okay.
right. This is when we open it up to the public. Tim, you can go ahead and
Okay, thank you.
back away from the podium. Anybody else in the audience like to comment on this item? Seeing none. Tim, thank you. And thank you to everybody else that came tonight. With that, we'll move on to item number 9.2. Adopting a resolution approving dedication of France Street Bridge to former Mayor Larry Murphy, and a resolution adopting a city property and infrastructure naming policy. Sarah.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Sarah Tracy with the City of Sonoma, and I'm here today to present this item to you, which originated by this body. The mayor had requested the potentially dedicating the France Street Bridge to Larry Murphy, a former mayor and council member, and so staff was set out to accomplish that. There we go. So first, the dedication of France Street Bridge. Larry Murphy, known to many people in this room, including myself, served as a council member from 1984 to 1992. He was mayor in 1998 and 1992 as well. If you look up his biography, you can get a lot more information about him, but somewhat notably, also Murphy's Irish Pub was founded by him, and most of us have visited that establishment and have great memories. So he made major contributions to the town, of course, in a number of different ways, and so there was a request to look at ways that we could commemorate him. And one idea was the France Street Bridge, which is a bridge on France Street in Sonoma, which happened to be the street where Larry Murphy resided for a number of years, seemed fitting. So the proposed dedication is the installation of a bronze plaque and an on-site dedication ceremony on the bridge, which there is a map right there. Some of you may have not even noticed it is a bridge, as it does kindly seamlessly go in with the street there. But as you can see in that photo, there are two opportunities for plaque placement on the north side of the bridge. The other side of the bridge does have a little bit, because it's so shaded, is not, as I was told by Public Works, not as ideal a site for a plaque. So you can see the specs there. The cost is not to exceed $2,500. That would be based largely on the sizing and how much text, and that would all be worked out if you decide to approve it. There would also be a public dedication ceremony that would be organized once we finalize the plaque details and worked backwards in terms of timing from that. The funding source currently is unassigned fund balance in the general fund, unless another source is identified, like donations is another possibility. So as we were considering this, it became clear that the city gets these requests periodically, and we did not have a process for that. We had an internal process, but there was no policy. So we did put together a policy to use in perpetuity that would help us in the naming and dedication of potentially future infrastructure, buildings, and other kind of city property. You can see in the guidelines the shorts policy, so hopefully you all were able to get through it. Basically focuses on the criteria for evaluation, how people can make requests, how those requests are received, the city manager reviews them, brings them to council for consideration. You all ultimately approve it, and then the city manager manages overseeing whatever that dedication is. So this does apply to facilities, landmarks, and infrastructure, notably excludes street names and public art. So, in a nutshell, tonight I'm asking you to do two things, which is to approve the dedication of the France Street Bridge, and in tandem, adopt the naming and dedication policy that we will then use for future requests that come through. And if you do approve it, the city will proceed with the fabrication of the plaque and making the plans for that event that we would hold on the bridge. And of course, the policy would then be used for evaluating future requests. And with that,
Okay.
I'll take any questions you have.
Thank you, Council. Any questions for staff? Seeing none. Thank you. Anybody in the public wish to comment on this particular item? Seeing none. We'll bring it back to the council. Would anybody like to?
I'd like to move both the naming and the policy. Do you need two motions on this?
No, that's,
Two motions or one?
there's two resolutions, but one motion can be.
One motion.
sufficient for
One
both.
motion. I move to accept both resolutions.
I will second that.
Comment, please.
Okay. Discussion.
Two items. I want to be very clear. I fully support the dedication of this plaque in memory of Larry Murphy. I think it's most appropriate. What I would like to see that is not identified is a process by which the details of this plaque and position of plaque are signed off by some ad hoc review body, somebody. Because this particular bridge has an interesting little detail that the recessed panel that is proposed to receive it, whether it's on the west panel or the east panel, has a reveal, a kind of reverse chamfer that goes back. And I'm just saying that there should be consideration given on how that plaque abuts that 45-degree slant. I am not advocating that I get involved in the design decisions, but I'm saying that there needs to be a process for not only this one, but going forward, that there is some appropriate small group that can assist in working out those details. So our job is purely that of signing off on the overall idea. And that would hold true also for the policy, that I'd like to see written in the policy what that process might be. So again, it's clear that it's our role to just simply approve it, but not get into the weeds, something that I apparently have a tendency to get into. So I'm not wanting to go there.
So currently, as written, the city manager is provided with the authority to implement the approval. So at this point, as written, it would be the city manager who would oversee all that. So if you wanted to change that and have a ad hoc group or something, we would revise the policy.
Well, I am open to discuss how that can get resolved, and however it needs to be done in a fairly simple way. But I'll leave it up to the city manager for comment.
I guess I'd offer that I think it is appropriate that the city manager position is responsible for implementing the direction from city council. I think it's also the city manager's responsibility to bring in resources as appropriate for each specific individual situation, because it could be a building, it could be a bridge, it could be something else. So I think based on the work we did on the other bridge and bringing in potential local architects and others and people that have the skill set, I think that's the responsibility of the city manager to implement it in a way that has a better chance of success in getting what the council wants. And so I think that would be part of my job, is to make that happen.
And I fully support that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, that's your job. I mean, I'm thinking even the design review, we have a design review and historic preservation commission. And there's all kinds of different, depending on what it is, that might also be, you know, a body that you could refer things to. I mean, I'm comfortable. I mean, I don't think we need to detail what the city manager should do. I think that, I'm comfortable with it as is.
Anybody else? There was the start of a motion, I think.
I made the motion. I don't know if I had a second.
Yes, there's a second.
There, thank you.
Okay.
Vice Mayor.
Roll call.
Vice Mayor Rivas,
Aye.
Councilmember Wellender,
Yes.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe,
Aye.
Mayor Gurney.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. Let's see here. Item 9.3, adopt a resolution approving temporary use of the Field of Dreams, Fazio Field, by Transcendence Theater Company for summer event series June 2 through 22nd, August 1 through 17, and August 29 through September 15th. Yes, who's doing this? You. Lisa.
You finally got a chance to look up. Sorry about the long titles. Good evening, Mayor Gurney and City Council. I'm Lisa Jansen. I'm a Senior Management Analyst with the City of Sonoma. Tonight we are here to discuss and hopefully get approval on Transcendence's Summer 2025 annual Broadway Under the Stars series. So, with further ado, let's go ahead and we'll start. What I would try to do in the front of my slide presentation is kind of provide a little bit of the background. So, Transcendence is seeking permission this year for their event series next year. With that said, we did give approval for this year's summer series in, I think it was February of this year, and it's been going very, very well. Very few concerns, very few complaints. We have been addressing little things as they pop up, but nothing major at this point. So TTC's summer series concludes this week. So Sunday's their last performance. Once we get the summer series for this year concluded, the city staff will go ahead and we will start the review process for, we'll do the post-event review for the 2024 series. And that information will be used as we kind of move forward for 2025. But today, what we're looking for is we're looking for you to approve or give the approval to the city manager for a provisional approval of the permit. So, benefits. This has been a tremendous benefit. The partnership between Field of Dreams and Transcendence Theater Company has provided Field of Dreams. Transcendence pays Field of Dreams a rental fee. To date, I think they've paid $20,000. They're expected to pay another $20,000 for this year's event, so that's mutually beneficial to both organizations. Field of Dreams then uses that revenue, and they keep the rental rates for all of our recreational fees nice and low, making the fields more accessible to our recreational teams. As well as they also reinvest the money in maintenance. So the City of Sonoma has a lease agreement and a maintenance agreement with Field of Dreams to manage this property for us. Over the first 3 months, Transcendence Theater attracted over 3,000 people, with over 800 of those individuals coming from outside Sonoma County. The city of Sonoma, we benefit from this. We get sales tax revenue on the ticket sales, as well as, we get tax revenue on all the individuals that come into our community. They go to the restaurants, they stay at our hotels, and so it's definitely a good economic driver for our city, and we do benefit. Ooh, uh-oh, what'd I do? Oh. Let's see. So the process to date, we received their application on August 30th, 2024. When we received it, we immediately started doing our outreach. Like I said, it's a little nuanced in that typically we would do a post-event review. We'd evaluate the entire season. We got a little bit of a jump start on it this year. We have met, the city managers met with the Chamber of Commerce. They've had some restaurant discussions. We've had some discussions with neighborhoods. And so that review process has already started. The city involvement, due to the scale of this event, looking forward, and it actually did occur this year as well, our city building official does get involved. This is a temporary event, but it does have some infrastructure that does require some oversight. Again, ADA requirements and things like that. So lessons learned from this year's event will be implemented in our 2025 approval process, and those items will be addressed in the conditions that are provided by the SEC. So ongoing discussions are currently happening right now. Field of Dreams has issued an agreement with TTC, has not been signed, but our city attorney has reviewed it. And the reason for that is to ensure that the terms in that agreement between those two organizations meets our lease agreements, and that the liability and all of that is taken care of in that. I wanted, because the staff report is very long and lengthy and there's a lot of supporting documents, what I tried to do in this slide is kind of just pull out the new things that they're proposing this year. And again, these are proposals. They could change a little bit, but right now they're looking at expanding the picnic experience. So not just allowing, providing a picnic opportunity for their Gold Club members or their top tier ticket holders, but to also provide a picnic experience for the community members that are maybe buying the lower tier tickets. So that is something that they're looking to do new. They're also looking to partner and really develop those restaurant relationships. And so when they met with the restaurant organizations, some of the things that came out of that was, can they highlight 1 or 2 restaurants per performance, offering like a pre-event picnic meals, like a takeout to go menu in advance. They talked about post-show, maybe guest signing, having individuals from the production show up at the restaurant afterwards and sign autographs, so meet and greets. And then also they talked about, we have some wonderful, we do have the Battle of the Bars event that happens annually. So they talked about providing maybe an opportunity for our restaurants to get involved by doing a specialty cocktail on site. And highlighting those bartenders that we do have. So these are just proposals. There's some work that will need to take place if this gets approved, but just to give you some insight on kind of how we're moving forward with those partnerships. This year, they're also looking at licensing a Broadway musical production. So their performances, you'll see there's, in the month of August, they're looking for an extension, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And I'll get back to that. But they're looking at increased performances this year, so expanding the number of performances from 16 in 2024 to 24, with the potential to add the 4 additional ones. It's 1 week, so it's a Friday or a Thursday through Sunday. It's 4 extra days in the month of August. And then another item is they've requested some additional setup on the front end in June. And then added some extra setup days for all the months. So June, August, and September. Really, that's a technical production request. It was just, it's hard to do everything that they do in such a short time frame. So this will allow them to get in and make it less tight on their production schedules. And then the other question that came up, or request that came to the city was wanting to put the infrastructure in June and kind of leaving it in through the end of the season in September. And those are items like the stage, the lighting, sound tower, sound booth, the porta potties, the dressing rooms, and 2 large storage containers that are currently, those storage containers have been out there, so that's really not a new ad, but just to kind of bring it up. But that would all be, part of the infrastructure would be on site. So one of the things that I think it's important just to highlight here is that it does displace our little girls softball team, but the Field of Dreams staff has been working diligently with the girls softball. There's been a few meetings, and I think that we can resolve that. In fact, I think it has been resolved. So, so proposed dates for Transcendence this year, or next year, I should say. First show would be June 2nd through the 22nd. Second show is August 1st through the 17th. And I'll go through the actual schedule so you kind of see how it breaks down. And then the possible extension, August the 21st through the 24th, and we'll know more about that as the ticket sales evolve. And then show number 3 would be August 29th through September 15th. And I think it's important to note that there are no shows planned for the month of July due to the national holiday and other events that we have going on. So this is, I tried, based on the information that I received and that's in your staff packet, I tried to kind of outline what a normal 15-day production schedule would look like. And so this kind of gives, this would be the basics that you would see the month of June, June, August, and September. And so it kind of tells you what's going on when the technical rehearsals are occurring and when the Transcendence team would be on property. And then I think it's also important just to note here that it does show that it goes to 11, but sound is on my next slide. And so all the sound is turned off by 10 p.m. in the evening. But this is the proposed monthly schedule for amplified sound. So there's definitely a few extra days on the technical rehearsal side. So there will be a little bit more sound being projected, and I shouldn't say projected, meaning more, it'll just be an extra 2 days. And then I think it's also important to note that Transcendence uses a generator. And that generator, we've currently had it behind the Haven. And so if, we'll need to address that at some point. So, but that is all the conditions on the use of the generator comes from our fire department, and so we'll get that when if you guys approve it, the conditions will be set by the fire department on that. Let's see. ADA and parking transportation. The parking and ADA transportation plan elements that we received for the 2024 event, we really haven't had any issues. I think the one thing we had to address was a couple of additional signs, just getting people a little bit more notice that they were coming across a crosswalk that was being used during a certain period of time during the evening. But other than that, I think everything went really well this year. This is kind of the slide that outlines our notices. One of the things that I think came up last year that we didn't probably do that I wanted to make sure that we addressed this year was just I added in the theater and entertainment groups, making sure that if we approve this early enough, we can actually get some of that collaboration and scheduling done in advance, and hopefully work with our other theater groups that are here in Sonoma Valley. So this is the CEQA paragraph, and at this point, this is the use falls under normal operations for the Field of Dreams, and I'm being told that there's no issues with that. So, and then just next steps. So the approval and review process. If you approve this resolution this evening, you'll be giving the city manager, David Guin, the ability to provisionally approve the 2025 application. At which point, the SEC will meet. We'll come up with the conditions. Typically, the way that happens is we base the conditions off of the 2024 season. So, good news is it ends this week, so we'll have a lot of data points, and then we'll work on the list of conditions that'll go with the agreement, and then there's compliance milestones that are all dated in the agreement, and then we kind of check back as a committee to ensure that that TTC is compliant with their agreement and what we have agreed to for the use of the Field of Dreams. I think the one thing I did want to note that has already occurred, and I think it's important to note, is that Transcendence has hired a sound engineer, and so they've been out, I think they started last night, and they'll be out for the next few days taking sound readings in different neighborhoods, just to give us a sense of how the noise is carrying, and hopefully we can use those data points to also give us some informed information on if the stage needs to slightly change or get relocated to a different way. We can make those adjustments, but we'll actually have real data, and the sound engineer will actually help us with that information, help Transcendence with that information. So our goal is probably within the next 2 weeks to get kind of a finalized site plan. I know we met with Maggie today on site with fire and our building inspector, and so there was a whole discussion about kind of the next steps of what we would need in order to move this agreement forward. So, do you have any questions? Sorry, it's a lot.
All right. Yes, it was. Thank you. Any questions from the council?
So, so first question, who is on the SEC?
So the Special Events Committee is comprised of our 2 sergeants that report into Chief Cutting,
Okay.
Our fire marshal, Trevor, and Trevor Smith, sorry, and Gary Johnson, who reports into Trevor. And then we typically will have the park supervisor, but in this case, we actually work with the city's operations director, Chris Pegg. And then it is Tommy Plume, our street supervisor, and then myself. And so we kind of sit down and we, like I said, we kind of go through all the elements in crafting the conditions of approval.
So I just, the 15-day schedule is a little confusing to me.
Okay, well, I'll see if I can help.
Yeah,
make it-
so on the left hand, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and those tech rehearsals 9 to 11. So that, for example, is before show 1 on June 2nd.
Correct.
I'm looking at that correctly, and then this shows through June 2nd, when the shows are happening.
So, sorry, Brad, I might need you to come up here with the show schedule. So what you're looking at is the Friday move-in. If you go back to the staff report, sorry.
The Friday move-in would be June 2nd.
Correct.
So June
Okay.
2nd is the load-in, and then we would open the following
Week.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that would happen again
For each,
in August, and then that would happen again
yes.
okay, good. Now I understand. Thank you. I just need a little clarification
And-
there.
And
It's
with
been a
that, I
long
would
week.
like to just acknowledge the fact that we have a very large contingency from Transcendence Theater here tonight that can answer any real technical questions that you might have.
And just want to say thank you. Great presentation. That was one thing that kind of got me like, okay, how do I understand this? But thank you so much. And it's wonderful to have folks here. So I wanted to ask if there's any, I know that this year, not last year because it was this year, is the community theater group had some concern about that it might eat into their ticket sales. And do we have any information about that?
So I didn't receive any feedback on that. City Manager Goen, did you?
My initial feedback is that it didn't hurt ticket sales for that show. We are going to be reaching out to them just to make sure that they are incorporated in that conversation and hear any other feedback. But if any other council members or anybody else is
I spoke to Jamie as well and asked her, and she had a similar report.
Oh, good.
We're getting people interested in going to the theater multiple times.
Yeah.
That's good. I just wanted to say that one of the things about us not doing shows in July that was the biggest concern I know from talking to Jamie, and that's when their big musical is planned for next year. So that was one of the reasons, as well as there's a big a tournament that they might need they're going to need more parking for. But that was one of the big reasons to not do shows next year in July.
And so you can stay there for a second.
Okay,
so the
I'm here.
So the extension that could potentially happen in August, that's dependent on ticket sales, or
Yeah, so we're looking at doing a big full
Like a-
musical. We have 3 options right now, and
can you tell us what those 3 options are? Is that like a secret?
No, I can tell you. I'm gonna say it from the stage when we open tomorrow. The 3 options in no particular order. We've polled audiences on it, so these are the top. We had 5, and these are the top 3. Are Smokey Joe's Cafe, Beautiful, and Rock of Ages are the top 3 right now. So, do you guys want to vote? But the hope is that it sells very well and it brings audiences from all over. When we did a chorus line, it was every show sold out. So
I went to that. Yeah, it was great.
So we want to have the opportunity to extend if we can with that. Yeah.
And then last question about the infrastructure staying up. What are the plans in regards to protection of the infrastructure and kind of security in regards to, any liability issues of people going on stage and, falling off stage or going up to the lighting and all of that fun stuff?
Yeah, well, they shouldn't be going up to the lighting, but yes.
But, people, don't always have boundaries.
That's true.
Unfortunately.
That's true. We are actually, that's something that was talked about this morning in their meeting. We're looking at that right now. What we have, because it's just a week at a time, we pay for security overnight and to be there the whole time, which we wouldn't be able to afford the whole summer. So we're looking at ways, whether it be, we still will have security for a lot of the times during those tech times, and we won't have as much equipment there when we're actually not doing tech. When it's not that schedule, it would be much more bare bones. But what is there, we are looking at ways to secure. There'll definitely be a lot of signage so people know that just like when we were at Jack London State Park, it was a public place, but we had the stage and everything up the whole time. We never had issues, but we had signage and we did secure it. And we're looking at different ways to secure it right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you have experience doing this at Jack London, so that's helpful.
We did. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Mr. Wellen, or anything?
I have a question about the generator. It was noted that you need a generator because insufficient existing electrical supply. And so my question is whether or not it's been identified what that demand might be and whether or not there's any consideration to upgrade our existing electrical to provide that, to eliminate the generator.
That, I don't know if that's...
That's something that I think when we look at a long-term plan with the general plan as we move forward, we can look at the future use of this site and the overall needs of this site and look at it holistically in terms of what's needed and plan for that as a future capital project.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Ding.
I have a question. Today we talk about the 2025. How about you have the 26 or the beyond? Do you have any updates? Your business negotiation with another party? If you have the long term and the plan, work with here, maybe you can make some of the investment, those kind of field to work with the organization, will work with the city.
Yeah, we would love to be here long term. I think this is a step. This is a step in that direction, but we would love to talk to the city, Field of Dreams. We already are starting to talk about long term being here, having this be our home, for sure. We would love it.
I'll just follow up. Any long-term discussion we'll be looking at kind of in a broader sense, especially we're in the middle of a general plan process, looking at land use and what those impacts could be. So I think that's a conversation we'll have over this next year. Yep.
Thank you. That is a win-win-win situation. Thank you.
Ms. Lowe?
So I totally enjoyed the first show I went to. I took my my grandkids, my 16-year-old, my 14-year-old grandson at the end said, "Grandma, that was sick." So just telling you, it's for
That's
all
good.
ages.
That's a good thing. Sick.
No,
right?
yeah, totally. And so they loved it. So I'll be there on Friday. I think I'm thrilled that you want to come back. I'm thrilled that everybody is in town is excited about it. I think it's such a great location. The fact that you're contributing to the Field of Dreams and I think that's great because it just everything goes right back into the community. And so I just want to put in a pitch for our Measure T just to make sure that we have, because there's a lot of staff support that goes for something like this. And I really, thank you, Lisa, for doing all that work, but it just doesn't happen. Okay, it doesn't happen without everybody doing all of this. And if we want to continue to do things that involve the arts and music and sports and something, then hopefully we will also have the kind of support needed to even make this better and better. So thank you very much for all of this. Obviously going to support it, and I'll see you on Friday.
Thank you.
And maybe you could talk about Measure T from the stage.
Yeah.
All right. My turn. You don't need to answer that. So I've been a supporter of Transcendence. It's no real secret since they rolled into the Valley. And this particular season was a little testy at the beginning, trying to get them into town. And but having met with the restaurants already, it's a whole different experience now. There's time to plan. And we were hustling to make this happen before. So I think we have an opportunity to do a world-class experience for people. And I look forward to 2025, and I look forward to Saturday night. So the other beauty that I have found is that I can ride my bike. And after the show, it is so easy to get out and jump on the bike path and get out of the area. So it's fantastic. Now, having said that, this is the opportunity, seeing nothing else from the council, for anybody in the audience to comment on this. And I don't know if you have anything else to offer, Brad.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all of you, and thank you definitely to the Field of Dreams and the City of Sonoma staff. Lisa, thank you for putting that together. And I know how what you said. I mean, I know how much work and time goes into this. I mean, just looking at this packet, wow. So thank you to believing in us and bringing us in and voting us in back in February. And I feel that the word is potential. There's so much potential still. We came in here and we did. This is why we're asking for more time. Is it's just like we're coming in a week, we're putting up a stage and taking it down. And it doesn't work for us, what's happening right now. It wouldn't work for the future. So that's why what we're proposing now is expansion. And we want to be here, and we believe that it's going to be good for the city, good for the Field of Dreams, good for us, and we are really excited. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else wish to address the council?
Quick comment. Anybody that didn't see Mayor Gurney and his lovely wife on their bicycle on the way to the performance, maybe we have photos because it was a performance in and of itself. And we could maybe do that and have people riding their bikes to the performance and have a whole schedule.
The vice mayor has a lot of suggestions for you as to what you should say on stage and what
I
you
see
should
that.
do on the way. And I think
Just come over to the dress rehearsal afterwards and we can talk.
All right. Anybody else wish to say anything? I see a lot of supporters out there. Mr. Lynch.
It's sort of gilding the lily at this point, but I do want to say, as one of the original founders and fundraisers for Field of Dreams, and its first board president, and then as a complete and total musical theater nerd, I can support both of these ideas because they are incredibly compatible. And I will tell you that our vision, when we built the Field of Dreams, almost as soon as the grass was through the ground and up in there, we were already planning things beyond just youth sports. And I don't know if anybody here ever remembers, the first musical group we brought in within the first 2 years was the Jack Daniels Dixieland Band. And we had a big concert right out here. So it's been going on, not to mention the 7 years of Sonoma Jazz Plus that was there. So this is consistent with what we envisioned the Field of Dreams for, and it's good for the Field of Dreams. That money is very welcome, I can tell you that much. And I'm very much in favor of Transcendence staying here, keeping this their home. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Susan, the president of our board, reminded me that I should probably let everybody know, just this past week, just to show our commitment to Sonoma and the city, and it's great for us. We just signed a 5-year lease for a warehouse, office space, rehearsal space, all right here in 8th Street East, and we're really excited. So just wanted to share that with you as well.
Thank you.
12,000 square feet.
Hi, Steve Kyle, 1800 Lomita Avenue. All of a sudden, I couldn't remember where I live. I'm a big fan, like you, John, of Holly and I have only missed 2 productions in the over a dozen years that they've been producing shows. So their contribution to our town in terms of fun and culture is extraordinary. But the economic, and they addressed it a little bit up there, but the economic impact is enormous. For those of you who don't know, I was on tour for 25 years. I was a producer in a production, and we ran events all over the Western United States and did in Europe as well. And so I know what a ticket sales and what a dollar spent has to do with a community, and it's just not. I can just simply state in a simple term, for every $100 that drops into our community as a result of these guys being here, actually has an economic multiplier of anywhere from 3 to 5. And so when you and your wife go out to dinner and you spend $100 down at one of the restaurants in the square, that's really a $300 to $500 investment, because it not only does it go to the restaurant, they take it, but they pay their staff, they pay their suppliers, they pay taxes, they pay this. And then those people that received those funds went out and paid it again. So it trickles down into a smaller amount as each person gets their hands on it. But I was walked by what they're setting up right now, and they have seats for about 700 people. So if 300 of those go into town on every night to go into the restaurants or buy food to go or stay here at one of the local inns and hotels around here, you're looking at probably those $45,000 to $90,000 a day going into this town. And so if you take that to its extreme, I'm running out of time here. If you take that to the extreme, the economic and these guys has a huge potential impact in our town. So I applaud your support for this. That's a great outfit. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, please.
Judith Walsh. I live at 18953 Viewcrest in Sonoma. I'm not going to repeat all of the wonderful economic benefits and everything. I just wanted to say that in addition to everything else, the cast and the crew and Transcendence people are a joy to have around. They spread joy, even outside the shows. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Seeing nothing else, I'm going to bring this back to the council. Is there a motion to be had?
I want to make another motion, if I may, to approve. I made a motion to approve. Do I need to adopt a resolution approving temporary use of the Field of the Dreams Fazio Field by Transcendency Theater Company for a summer event series, June 2nd to 22nd, August 1st to 17, and August 29 to September 15 of 2025. The resolution is exempt from SECA under Section 15304, 15323, facilitates for the public gatherings, and 15061 B3. That is all.
I will be very happy to second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Farrar Rivas,
Yes.
Councilmember Wellender,
Yes.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe,
Aye.
Mayor Gurney.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Bravo.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Can I kick you under the desk?
Okay. As the room clears, we will move on. Item 9.4, designating the City Council voting delegate for the 2024 League of California Cities Annual Conference and provide direction on proposed resolution. Ms. Barr.
Thank you, Mayor Gurney. So the City of Sonoma is a member of the League of California Cities, along with 476 other cities in the state. And they attend annually. There is an annual conference that changes the location throughout the state. This year, the 2024 conference is going to be held in Long Beach on October 16th through the 18th. And at the conference, there's an annual business meeting that takes place on the last day of the conference. And at the business meeting, the representatives or the delegates from the city consider resolutions that have been put through the process, through the policy committees, the General Resolution Committee. And so they establish policy for the League of City and the 476 cities that are members. For the 2024 annual conference, there was one resolution that was received. It was titled "The Fair and Equal Treatment of All Governmental Officials at All Levels," and it was submitted by the City of Glendora. Each resolution that is presented and accepted has to have 5 cities that support it, and the one that proposes it, and then 4 additional cities. This one did meet that criteria. And the objective of that resolution is basically to call upon the governor and the legislature to adopt a policy that they won't enact or sign into law any rules or regulations that apply solely to elected officials of cities and counties and not the state legislature or elected members of the state legislature. Some examples of this are California's open meeting rules, the Brown Act, the exemptions that have happened, such as Senate Bill 174 and CEQA. There's Political Reform Act changes that only affect local officials and county officials. Also, campaign finance, the same. Those are all types of examples of these type of rules that this resolution would speak to. And so for tonight, the item before the council is to designate a voting delegate that would represent and vote on behalf of the city at that annual conference, and then also to provide direction for the council to provide direction if they so choose to that voting delegate of how they would like them to proceed at that meeting. Very quick overview. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll turn it back to the council.
All right, I've got just a quick question. What is the time of that meeting?
Typically, it is approximately right around 2 o'clock on Friday. It's after the end of the last session on Friday afternoon. So right in lunch. Usually it's about 2 o'clock.
All right. I guess how many of the council members are in attendance?
I'm going.
All right. How many of you are there?
Game time decision for me, whether or not I may fly in just for Friday. I got some work to do.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm looking at my flights now, and I'm scheduled to depart at 12:50. So are you?
I think more important is the person that votes, regardless. I mean, if it were me, I would vote no on this. Is that part of what we're to be discussing right now?
It is to give direction to that voting delegate. And just as an FYI, we do have to, the council does have to officially appoint a voting delegate to have someone vote at that. I have to send a response to the League of Cities saying who the council designated, and they will actually make that person check in and get their ballot. So it's not, we can just say anybody can do it. You can make multiple delegation. You can do like, okay, it could be this person, this person, this
Yeah, you
person.
can do up to 2 alternates as well. And I am just checking the schedule, and the closing general session is at 11 to 12:30, so I think, I think that would be the time.
Usually after the lunch, during the lunch we discuss, and after lunch we can job. Yeah. I'm okay, because that day after the meeting I will go to Irvine, visit my older son.
Okay, so you will be
I'm
there.
okay. Yeah.
I nominate Councilmember Ding.
I'll second that motion.
All right. So, can we
Mr. Welland.
can we discuss
The issues.
the issue of this resolution?
Let's finish this vote
Okay.
first, and then
we vote first. Yes, I nominate. I move approval of the nomination of Councilmember Ding.
Well, that's a doubly second now. Any further discussion, Mr. Wellender? Anybody?
I was just reading on page 156. It says the General Assembly will convene on the 18th at 8:30 to consider any qualified resolutions to vote during the General Assembly voting delegates. So it sounds like they changed it to earlier. And it sounds like the closing session may not be till 9, 9:30, 10, whatever, which is typical. But I'm just reading what it says here that implies that the voting time is at 8:30.
It does appear that they've changed that this year.
I think it's all right with our Councilmember Ding, so we could go ahead with that.
No problem.
And you can certainly put me down as an alternate in case there's an issue.
So is that
And
a
you
friendly
can-
amendment that you will
Yeah,
accept?
I accept that as a friendly amendment. I also just would like to note that when you get there and you register, if you have a change of plans, you can tell them there on the spot. This is not like, they have a table there. You can sign up.
Okay. All right. So we have a slightly amended motion. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Farrar Rivas.
Aye.
Councilmember Wellender.
Yes.
Councilmember Dean.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe. Aye. Mayor Gurney.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, on to the issues and direction for the voting delegate. Anybody have any comments? Yes.
Well, I would vote no on this thing. It's just, it's ridiculous on its face that we're going to pass a resolution to tell the governor what to sign and not sign. I mean, it's the governor. He can sign and not sign whatever he wants, right? And I don't think that we should be directing the staff of the California League of Cities to lobby every single bill that comes before the legislature and then lobby the governor to sign or not sign. Because when you pass these resolutions, that tells the staff, well, now you got to go out and make these things happen. And, none of this is going to happen. And it's going to make the people who advocate for us in Sacramento kind of look foolish. There are times where it is appropriate for laws to be passed that regulate the conduct or the policy of governmental bodies, whether we live in a democracy. And, it's messy, and at times it's, infuriating. but it's better than any other kind of government that I've ever seen. So I'm in favor of democracy, and I'm in favor of voting no on this thing.
Anybody else?
Maybe I'm misreading this, but the gist of this resolution is that, if I could paraphrase, and I don't think it's a nursery rhyme, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So what I'm reading is that they are asking not the legislators to pass laws that may impact us, tie our hands, demand that we do certain things, and that they do not need to be held accountable. I think that they need to be more thoughtful in the laws that they do pass and realize that the laws should pertain to everybody, and I do believe that's democracy. So I would support this unless somebody can tell me otherwise what this is all about.
Point, counterpoint.
Point, counterpoint, thank you. What I would say to your comment, and I inherently agree with what you're saying, but I think you have to take that up on a case-by-case basis. So if something comes forward that picks on, for lack of a better term, city council members and does not similarly affect supervisors or other one, then I believe that the League of Cities should take an opposed position on that bill and try to talk about why that's inherently unfair. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just think that applying this as this giant Band-Aid that is then going to apply to everything, even when we receive a good policy before us, they would have this and they'd have to oppose it because it would say, oh, it only applies, so we have to oppose it because we have this. I don't know. I'm not in favor of these kind of things in general. I think you should take up each bill as it comes forward and discuss it on its merits, and not have a big policy like this, predetermining your opinion on everything. It's too broad.
All right. Anybody else have anything to add?
I did a little bit of research. I feel like we the Cal City, not in the proper, involved too much. So then I think, we want to say no. Yeah.
Ms. Ferrar-Rivas.
No, I would just, so I am kind of a newbie to this, I will be honest, but I will say that I agree that it is not good to have blanket proposals that just are not, that cover everything, because there may be, it will take a lot of staff time, and it'd be better just understanding that what it takes to lobby the legislature and the things, it's better for us to identify what are the really important things that we really want the lobbying people with Cal Cities to be spending time on, and not having to have this a blanket support across the board.
I just need some clarity. So if I'm hearing correctly, if they want to propose a law or a new law, in my simplistic interpretation, is that the law needs to apply to both local government, county and city, and legislators. So what part of that is blanket, other than the fact that they need to be mindful of what they're passing, why they're passing, and who it should be impacted? So I don't understand, I can't connect the dots that says that this is something that is going to preclude them from bringing up a law and discussing it. Again, what, at least from, is it Glendora, what I read was, it's just like, why is there an inconsistency as far as where they think this particular law applies? And if it's good for us, why isn't it good for Sacramento? If it's in our best interest and they feel that it's incumbent or incumbent upon us to do something, why should they be excluded? Again, this goes beyond, I mean, this is a broad sweep, but it's just the concept. Because I can tell you now that there have been stuff that has come out of Sacramento that they have felt that's, you know, applicable from California, I mean, from Oregon to Mexico, and it hasn't, but they didn't care about that. So anyway, I based upon my reading of it and the 5 cities that are proposing this that allowed it to become a resolution, it seems like all they're asking for is, sure, legislators, pass a law, but, you know, be advised it applies to you as well. That sounds pretty democratic to me.
Okay. So there are a couple of things. Number one, I look at who's supporting this on this, and it's an LA Basin issue, apparently. These guys have too much coffee together. The other point is, just because we have this resolution, and it has no application at state law level. It doesn't enforce anything. We're not a legislative body for law in the state of California. Having said that, I'm just curious, has our city attorney reviewed this resolution, and does he have any humble thoughts, perhaps?
I understand this is a expression of policy preference, and that's what the league, that's what they're trying to attain by passing resolutions in this fashion. So it's simply an aspirational resolution that requests that the legislature have a policy that would, you know, move forward with the what's good for the goose is good for the gander type of a policy. You know, beyond that, that's all that it does.
Thank you. Mr. Wellender?
I was just smiling because this is kind of like us passing a resolution for a ceasefire.
Oh, don't do that. Don't.
I'm just saying, in the application.
But it is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the league, I think. I mean, in terms of laws that apply to cities and counties, that's what they're talking about. So
But I think the
there's
key,
a closer nexus.
yeah, the key to me is aspirational.
So you're saying it has no teeth, basically?
Correct.
Thank you, City Attorney.
It only has persuasive authority to the extent that the league's resolutions can persuade.
If we look at it in the contrary position, if they does that mean that if some regulation is passed and required of the state legislature, it therefore needs to apply to all cities and supervisors? I mean, I certainly wouldn't want. You think that's a good idea? I don't. There's a lot of things that apply to all of us. I mean, the campaign finance laws and many things, I think, you know, maybe the amount that one can contribute is different, but, you know, the filing dates are the filing dates, and, you know, the FPPC is the FPPC. I mean, there's a lot of the things are the same, but we're just different. I mean, theoretically, I don't disagree with you, Councilmember Wellender. I don't know. I just have a problem with these kind of feely good things that everybody is like, yeah, you know, we're going to make them do the same as us. And it's like, why are we doing that for? That's silly.
All right.
And I guess the only thing it's like in each instance, is it appropriate for them to do the same as us is the question. And each body has different responsibilities that they have to do, and how they work. I mean, that's, I think, what it gets down to. For me, is like how people get how they get the work done, and whether something interferes with how the work gets done. And so I think each item needs to kind of be looked at in that way, of like, how does this affect the work that people are doing? If it really has no teeth, then it is just like, as you said, aspirational. But in that aspect, does it cause more work for other people for something that's aspirational?
Okay, I'm going to bring it back to me. I'm going to make a motion that we vote no on this. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, second. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Ferrer-Rivas?
Okay, so I have to say, I'm voting yes, that we vote no.
That is right.
Councilmember Wellender.
That is right.
I'm struggling incredibly because I don't like to make decisions just because they feel good, and I've been educated now that this is a feel-good measure. So to be consistent and not hypocritical, I vote yes for a no.
Councilmember Dean.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe.
Aye.
Mayor Gurney.
I with an A. What are we doing? Yes for the no.
So you unanimously vote. Motion passed for no unanimously. Thank you.
Seriously. Seriously. All right, 5-second break. A couple items. All right, 5 minutes.
So we don't know which of these posters won.
We are now going to deal with item 9.5. Adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Hinderliter, is that correct? Hinderliter? De Lamas and Associates, HDL companies, for business license administrative services, short-term rental administrative services, and transient occupancy tax administrative services. Take it away.
Good evening, Mayor Gurney and the council. I am here to talk about the HDL business license, TOT, and short-term rental administration. Currently, city staff processes about 2,550 business licenses and 69 TOT units, which requires significant staff time. We have very limited resources to manage any delinquency enforced businesses that may require business license, that may have one, or even pay TOT. HDL Company offers comprehensive business license services, including issuance, renewal, and compliance monitoring. It uses advanced technology to manage applications and assess and update fees very easily. Their service supports municipalities in enforcing regulations and identifying the revenue opportunities. HDL's discovery and compliance, audit compliance, helps identify businesses that are not in compliance with paying business taxes, which ultimately leads to revenue increase. With that, HDL does estimate that the revenue will increase by 25% on business license tax through tax discovery and audit. The agreement with the HDL will not only enhance efficiency, it will improve customer service and help us with the revenue stabilization. This agreement will also provide full service for TOT administration and short-term rentals, and will have a comprehensive audit on TOT properties. We have 11 TOT's properties. Every 4 years, these properties will be audited. With this transition, not only with the revenue growth, this will also allow the staff to have address it will help staff with the time, so the staff in the finance department will have additional time to work on other critical needs of the department. With that, I am here to answer any questions you have, and I do have Josh Davis from HDL for any other technical questions.
All right, thank you. Council, any questions for our finance director?
My question is, what is the job and the volume? The hour, what kind of a technician, and how many hours to get it done?
So when you say that, are you talking about like processing, renewing business license, or implementation with HDL?
And could you please break down, itemize, each job?
Yeah. So we have estimated about 600 hours for staff hours for business license processing, for renewals, any question answered, mailing out. So that's done annually. And for TOT implementation, I would say it would be about, 150 to 200 hours, because it's every month, so staff has to reconcile the TOT, make sure, it's the journal entry is done, process TID payment. So, so about 900 hours.
900?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the staff time.
How much?
Oh, and then enforcement too.
Yeah, I was going to
Sorry.
say, that's okay. I'm going to add the code enforcement side of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
So any business license that does not renew, we do submit to code enforcement with an additional contract. And so with this new process, we will reduce the number of code enforcement actions that we do put forward using that contract through code enforcement. So this will be covered by that as well. And I think I was just trying to pull that number as well of how many we submitted this year. And I want to say, I would guesstimate like maybe 50 renewals didn't come through, and so we have to go track them down. So that's one thing that we do. I think the other aspect is we have code enforcement going after businesses that are active without licenses as well, but it's not a proactive approach. It's more of a reactive if we get a complaint from the health department or something like that. So I did want to add that.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Dean?
Yes, answer my question.
All right. Any other questions? Mr. Waller?
Just to clarify, so the investment it's a yearly license for the software?
Yes,
And then in
that is.
addition, it's,
For 27,100, yes.
27,100. And it predominantly is going to benefit both your department as well as code enforcement?
That is correct.
So HDL is actually going to do the code enforcement?
So they have a compliance, yes, so they're gonna email and Josh, please speak if I misspeak something. So they're gonna like educate the business saying, hey, we see that you are in business, so they're gonna do that, yes.
But in terms of actually coming down with a hammer, it would then go to our local code enforcement service.
Yeah.
And is that Bob Smith? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? So I will just point out that the Vice Mayor and myself on the Finance Committee had a presentation yesterday about this, and frankly, I would like to speak with or hear from the vendor, and I do have a question or two for them.
Sure. Oh, he's online, on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Hello. My name is Josh Davis, and I am with HDL, and certainly happy to answer any questions you have.
All right. The other council members may well have a question for you, but my question is, in your experience, when you implement this program in other communities, what is the response of the business community and the community in general? You know, there may be businesses that just weren't attended to, so they've gotten away with stuff for quite a while. Are you able to go back and figure out what an overall debt might be to the city if it hadn't been enforced appropriately, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think obviously we're touching multiple aspects of the business community throughout varying processes of their interaction with the city. So generally, our service is very well received in the sort of what we'll call sort of the normal process of business license, which includes acquiring one in the first place, going through your application, having to go through, planning or building and safety, or all of the different checks that have to happen. Businesses typically like, because we're able to really provide additional layer of service on top of what they would normally be able to get. We're open more hours. We have the ability to do appointments and more personalized approaches and give really a more broad brush of customer support throughout the whole process. So like in general, the business community typically receives the services incredibly well. For the specific types of people that you mentioned, where potentially there are taxpayers who are going for years without complying with the law and not paying the taxes. Certainly those are more sensitive. Sometimes it can be reviewed negatively, but we do take a very education-centric approach. This isn't quite like a strong arm enforcement type of process where we're educating the community about the requirements, teaching them how best to comply, how to process their business license, and try to make it as easy as possible for them to get through that. Certainly no one likes to hear that they have some tax that they owe, but in general, we try to make that as equitable, as fair, and as painless of an experience for the community as possible.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about, because the businesses, are they renewing their business license annually? or you're collecting for I mean, how do you collect? Is it an annual fee? Is it collected annually? Is it done on a quarterly
Correct.
basis? It's annual. And my understanding is our business license fee has not been reviewed for a long time or audited in regards to the current cost. Do you also help with the process of, if we increase the business license fee, the process of working with the businesses so that they understand that there's going to be an increase in their fee? And is that part of what you do as well?
Yes, we offer a tax ordinance and program review and modification program that can assist the city in analyzing its current tax structure, reviewing the business community, what's the makeup, what types of businesses are operating, how is the tax burden affecting them, what are other cities doing in your neighboring and similar jurisdictions throughout the state to create an equitable tax program, and propose multiple solutions for kind of a variety of things, keeping up with the with the economy. I mean, frankly, you're very correct. The ordinance is extremely old. We're looking at what could be referred to as an industrial age tax code, and we're certainly in an information age that the business community changes, the city's needs changes in terms of the needs to support those types of communities, and so the tax structure needs to keep up. Otherwise, you run into a situation where there can be vast inequities where small businesses pay a substantially higher proportion of their taxes than, say, a large business does. And so that is part of the program that we can, at the city's election, put into place to help assist in presenting those models and those sort of information in general, as well as solutions to any problems that come up for the city and the council to address if need be.
Thank you.
Mr. Welander.
I'm not sure who this question is directed to, but we have identified short-term rentals in town, but I'm speculating that because we have outlawed them, except for grandfather and for certain areas. My next question is part of the process going to be trying to find those scoundrels? And if so, beyond them paying TOT, what measures are we going to take to either say you're shut down, or B, we're going to have to amend our short-term policy?
I'm already started. I realized that list hadn't been updated in quite some time. So I already started working with finance staff to look at business licenses and TOTs, which is why when this came up when Property started, I said, I want to join with you as far as the TOT coverage and our short-term rentals, to making sure that they're paying their TOTs and that they're getting the business licenses, because they were required to have both. And what I was finding is that we were missing one or the other in some cases, and so that's what I'm going after right now. So that's the list. So I'm working on the list, and I'm trying to understand this list better. So that's part one. Part two is going after quote-unquote scoundrels. And that already, we're starting with actually host compliance through code enforcement, so that Bob Smith and Braden are focused on that aspect and just grabbing those addresses, and we'll go and reach out to those people and then basically inform them that they're not allowed to be in business. So, but they owe us money.
Thank you.
So again, do you use algorithms or any technology to identify perhaps short-term rentals that are completely unknown in the community?
We do have a program that does that. The city, though, as what was just mentioned prior, is currently using a different vendor for that service.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Mr. Dean.
My question is for Jennifer. Have you make a comparison using the professional and the service company is very good, established, or we can hire a part-time and employee to fulfill. Also, because I'm council member, and the local the people support me. I would like to using this job opportunity locally. What is the advantage, or why we have to use this wonderful professional and service company instead of, and we are not high, or the budget issue, or
And so I don't know that one part-time person. We're already, so probably going to be able to speak better to the finance side because it's kind of a tag team effort in the sense of Propty's in charge of finance, which collects the taxes and the TOTs and the business licenses, but they're done by different people because there's just so much work to do, right? And then my side is more of making sure that they have the permits, the entitlements that they're required. But I'm also in charge of our code enforcement. And so that's also why I'm involved in trying to enforce our rules. I don't know that one part-time person would fill that role because it's an ongoing aspect of the job. And it requires a lot more of that hand-holding and that research that HDL is able to provide. They also already have the programs that can do the searching. So the proactive aspect is what HDL can provide. We're more on the reactive side of it right now. We have not been able to be proactive, hence the reason why with the short-term rentals, I've got missed opportunities there. So there's some disconnect. So we're trying to become more effective with our staff and with our hours and with consultants. We see that this provides us with an opportunity to gain more of that lost revenue that we potentially have been losing within the city.
Thank you.
And I just have a comment. I think what we had heard when we were at the Finance Committee meeting was that Propty was being conservative in estimating a 10% increase in revenues.
That is correct.
And that HDL, it was anticipating up to a 25% increase in revenues.
And that is just for business license tax.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any other? Okay, we have a comment.
Just a quick comment that I just think it's our responsibility to improve our financial picture as best we can. I think, we're going forward asking the public to approve something, and we have to do one of the questions, or some of the questions I've been dealing with is like, what are you doing to maximize your revenue? What are you doing to make sure everyone, and it's so important that we show that we're doing everything we can to maximize our revenue and make sure everybody is treated fairly but equally under the system. And this is, to me, part of that. I think it's our responsibility and our due diligence, and I'll be voting yes on this.
All right, very good. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak to this matter? Seeing none, we'll bring you back to the council.
So I'd like to make a motion.
Please do.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Hinderlitter, DeLamas and Associates, HCL companies, for business license administration services, short-term rental administrative services, and transient occupancy tax administrative services.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I hear a second. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Farrar Rivas. Aye. Councilmember Wellender.
Yes.
Councilmember Ding.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe.
Aye.
Mayor Gurney.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
And Mr. Ding, I hope you have a business license in place.
2 years ago, I did in the fire. I got a penalty.
And he's laughing about it. So look at how much fun we're having.
All right, thank you.
I'm next again.
You're next again, then don't go away.
Yep.
All right. Item 9.6, a resolution authorizing city manager to execute a professional services agreement with OpenGov for cloud budgeting and planning software and implementation. Ms. Prati.
Okay. So right now, as you all know, our current budget process is very, very manual. We download like spreadsheets from Springbrook, give it out to the departments, they fill it out, we manually enter it. There is a very high chance of human error. And it's not collaborative at all, meaning like departments, when they request, they're not aware if it made through the budget process or, you know, and during the year I've experienced that people are like, you know, asking me if what's in their budget, what account. So it's very manual and not collaborative, and also it's not transparent. Like the public or the stakeholders do not know what is being budgeted and what's the actual numbers are. So in order for all these problems, we have like there is a solution. OpenGov is a cloud-based solution, and we also use OpenGov's permitting and licensing module, so we are familiar with the company. The OpenGov budgeting and planning module, it enhances transparency with actual data integration every night. So you have a dashboard as a user. So when you click in, you can see the actual data that happened the day before. So it integrates with our ERP software, Springbrook. So you are getting the actual real-time data. So that helps not only to monitor the expenditures, but it's helpful for decision making, and it improves the public understanding of the financial data, especially this year, because we're really keeping eye on our expenditures and making sure we're maximizing our revenue, because we have forecasted the budget deficit. So the staff feels it's very important that stakeholders have the actual real-time data. With that, it strengthens public trust because it provides interactive data, which is important for public to see the city's efforts and staff's effort for revenue growth and effective expenditure management. The OpenGov budgeting and planning module also has like an online budget book. The minute the budget is adopted, the next day we have a budget book that is available, so the council does not have to wait for a month or two for staff to manually put together Word and Excel document. So that is a plus point. And I would also like to talk about the internal process. It creates more collaboration between the department, because right now departments do not really use our ERP system, Springbrook, to know their budgeted and actual data. This way they have it, the information is right there, readily available for them to create reports to see any budget versus actual data and make like informative financial decisions. Also, it helps in capital planning, which shows the capital projects like 5-year, long-term planning, which is very important. And the other cool feature about this module is that it has a workforce planning. So if we, during MOU negotiation, if we want to say, what happens, what is the cost for the city for 3% MOU increase versus 2? So it does have that, it provides that, so we can see what's the cost impact for the city. Additionally, OpenGov also boosts the key performance indicators. So because of the real-time dashboard and automated reports, it enhances transparency, decision-making, and aligns and helps the council align with the strategic goals. I know I said a lot with that. If you have any questions, I have Brandon here from OpenGov to answer any questions you have.
All right. Thank you. Questions?
I
Go
have
ahead.
a comment. I just wanted to add too that this is also a system that Propke has used before, and that currently City of Healdsburg has used it.
Yep.
And you can actually, I think one of the great aspects is the public can go online and see. They can actually see what's happening. I know one of the things is, especially when David first got here and when we were having finance committee meetings, we weren't able to review information because it was taking staff so long to prepare the budget, or the analysis and the P&L and all of that for us. And this way, it's all
There.
it's gonna be available. We can see what's happening daily, and between we can look 3 days before, and then we have the meeting, and we can know if something's changed. But for the most part, will be up to date on the information and be able to understand it, to be able to make decisions. So anyway, I wanted to just add that on, that it's not something new to you, and it's not something new to other cities.
Right, it's not.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hollander?
Two quick questions. One is, and even though the gentleman is here from OpenGov, I have a question for our community development director. No, you don't have to move. It's quick. Has OpenGov been responsive to supporting us in the online permitting process to date?
Yes, they have been very responsive, and Jade works very closely with them, probably on a weekly basis, on updates and understanding things. And they're constantly updating and providing more trainings as they are upgrading their software to meet West Coast needs.
That's good to hear, and I'm also pleased to know that there's been some experience with the software already. That's great news. And my last question is, as I look at the report, the investment is going to be on an annual basis of around $75,000.
Yes, that is correct. Well, so the first year it has the implementation cost,
Okay.
but after that it drops down to 40,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Mr. Ding?
Yeah, that is very good. You know, the price also is good. And do you charge additional training or?
So no. So the first year, the implementation cost covers everything, and I believe OpenGov has training, like, right, Brandon, like webinars that's it's online. So I don't know about that.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you should cover it.
Yes, so included in the professional services portion of the agreement, we're going to do not only department trainings for anybody who's a thought leader, part of putting the budget together, but then we'll also do all of our end-user trainings as well. And then we do have OpenGov University and some other methods as well for folks down the line who need hand-holding or help, just understanding maybe a task that they have as part of their process.
Does that include city council members?
Certainly does.
Okay, I'm just
That's
making sure.
great. Yeah, we want to learn.
Absolutely.
By the way, who is your competitor? Because during the exhibition, David and I, I didn't see. Can you name some of your similar software or
It's
what is the?
ClearGov.
So yeah, there's a few. Yeah, there's a group called ClearGov. They do a very intro-level
ClearGov.
budgeting and planning
Okay.
solution. Very different approach from how OpenGov does things, but you also see a group too called Questica is another organization out there that also has a budgeting software per se.
That's great. Thank you.
Ms. Farrar-Rivas, I saw you reaching for that button. Okay. Anybody else? Sam? I just have a question. I'm not sure anybody can really even answer it. I'm curious as to why we went to OpenGov with the permitting and building processes versus doing the budget first. Anybody know that?
I can't tell you all the history, but I do know that we were already transitioning, partially due to COVID and just the changes in the environment, to go from paper to an online system. And it was just not even, it was for tracking, but also for actual submittals. So removing the paper. I wasn't part of that process or the selection. Wayne led that charge.
Right.
And I'll just add, I think Jennifer just hit on it at the end, is we did have a motivated long-term employee that focused on helping move that forward. We did have a lot of transition in the finance department over multiple years that really took properties being here to help get us back on track. And so I think this is a good transition to get to this point. But I wish we were there sooner, but here we are today.
All right, thank you. And as we do with all items, apparently, anybody in the public like to comment on this particular topic? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council. Anything further from the council? I'll entertain a motion.
I would like to take a motion that we approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional service agreement with the OpenGov for cloud and budgeting and planning software and implementation.
All right, is there a
I
second?
will second that.
We have a second. And just one thing, Property, I think you said that we could print out a hard copy of this at any time. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Farrar Rivas,
Aye.
Councilmember Wellander,
Yes.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe,
Aye.
Mayor Gurney.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, item 9.7, update on the fiscal year 2023-24 year end. Property, again.
Yes. Okay. Oh, here is the agenda for the presentation. We're gonna look at the 23-24 year overview, talk about general fund summary for revenue, budget versus actual, expenditures, budget versus actual. We're gonna talk about general fund reserve, and fiscal year 23-24 proprietary fund, which includes enterprise fund, that is water and cemetery, and internal services fund. For fiscal year 23-24, the total revenue for general fund was 25, this is actuals, was 25.4 million, and expenses was 24.6 million, with surplus of 0.8 million for general fund. Similarly, for enterprise fund, the revenue, actual revenue was 6.4 million, expenses was 5.7 million, with surplus of 0.7 million. For internal service fund, actual revenue was 1.2 million, expenses was 0.8 million, and surplus was 0.4 million. The total, so now we're going to talk about the general fund summary. The total revenue that was budgeted for the year was 24.3 million. However, the actual revenue received was 25.4 million. The total expenditure budgeted was for 25.9 million, and the actual expenditure expended was 26.4 million, which gives the surplus of 0.8 million. Some of the revenues, we will be looking at some of, these are the major revenues for general fund for fiscal year 23-24, and I will touch on some of the revenues. The TOT revenue was 0.6 million less than what was budgeted. The budget amount was 6.5 million, with actuals of 5.9 million, which is under 0.6 million compared to the budgeted. The main reason for this was two hotels were undergoing renovation, so we did not have the revenue for that. When we talked to HDL last, it is anticipated these revenues are going to increase as of for this fiscal year. On the property tax side, the revenue exceeded by 0.5 million due to strong home sales, and it is expected to remain strong as the interest rate declines. And by today's Fed cutting point, by cutting interest rate for the first time in 4 years for 50 basis point, I feel like this is a good thing for us, as it will, the property tax revenue will increase because of that. Similarly, for sales tax, which includes the general and public safety and Measure V, it was 0.4 million less than what it was budgeted. During our sales tax call with HDL, they did talk about, due to inflation and interest rate, consumers are more cost conscious. So hopefully by today's Fed's decision, people have more discretionary income to spend out on restaurants or buy goods and services. The next big revenue for general fund is the EMS, ambulance billing, which was 2.9 million for fiscal year 23-24, and it was budgeted for $2.3 million. And then the last thing on the list is the interest revenue, and I would like to highlight that We had about $30 million just sitting in our checking account for the longest time without being invested. So the interim finance director saw, when he was here, Chuck McBride, he saw the opportunity to move this large amount, $15 million to LAIF back in September of 2023, which has the actual revenue, interest revenue received has been incremental compared to what it would have been if it had stayed in the city checking account. This year, we did open up a camp, which is very similar to LAIF, which earns 5.4% of interest. But again, with the tax cut today, I'm not sure what the rate will be for tomorrow, but as of today, it was 5.4%. We are hoping to see the interest revenue hold steady like last year, but time will tell.
I think short-term rates are going to be 4.75.
Yeah,
which is still
good. Right.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. The next is general fund expenditures, budget versus actuals. The total expenditure budgeted for general fund was $26 million. The total actual expended was $24.6 million, which makes us under budget by $1.4 million. This is basically because of the salary savings and employee benefit costs and the professional services and cost reductions throughout the departments. Here is the general fund expenditure by category. And then this is by the department. As we can see, 57.6% of the general fund operating expenditure is for fire and police. Okay, so next I will be talking about the general fund reserves. As of June 30th, 2024, we have $15.8 million of fund balance in general fund reserve. I would like to note that this is unaudited numbers. We're working on audit, so this is an unaudited number. It could change, but as of now, $15.8 million is the fund balance, which includes $0.6 million of committed, assigned, and reserved for reserve projects. 4.4 million is our operating reserve. 1.5 million is our emergency reserve, and we have 9.3 million for unreserved and undesignated. Okay, so next I will be talking about the proprietary fund, and within the proprietary fund, there's enterprise fund. So for the cemetery, the beginning, this is the unaudited numbers again. The total revenue budget was $0.4 million. Revenue received was 0.3. For expenses, the total total expenses was 0.6 million. Total actual expended was 0.4. The beginning fund balance for the cemetery fund was negative 1.2 million, which brings the ending fund balance to negative 1.3 million. And ever since we have cemetery manager on board, staff is already working on how to increase the revenue and manage expenses efficiently. Okay. Next is water fund. The total budget for water for revenue was 6.6 million, and the actuals received was 6.1 million. We just did an accrual today to move you know how for water sales for June's bill, it is billed in July. We just did an accrual today this morning, which will make the revenue budget as much as it's the budgeted. So we just did the accrual for 700,000, so it is very close to what it was budgeted. You know, when I prepared this report, we'd not done that, so the revenue is very close to budgeted. The total expenditure was budgeted for 10.1 million, and then the total expenses for the actual was for the year 5.4 million, which brings the surplus of 0.8 million to the ending fund balance of $8.5 million. This is the overview for internal service fund with all the different funds: management information system, vehicle replacement and long-term building and maintenance. The total budgeted revenue for internal service was $1.1 million, with actuals of 1.2. For expenses, it was budgeted for $1.4 million, and actual expenses was 0.8. That brings the surplus of $0.4 million for the fund. Yeah, with that, I am happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Council, any questions? Just one.
Yep.
We're holding you to that.
No problem. On the cemetery, and I think I may know the answer just because we ignored it for so many years, but in your summary at the bottom when it talks about the surplus and deficit, it makes me nervous to see, and I'm hoping it's an error, but it may not be, of $77,684,000. That's on your fiscal year 23-24 cemetery budget versus actual. Down at the very bottom. It's 1,000. Okay.
Yeah, it's 1,000.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'm getting old and my glasses
No.
need to.
It's me.
Yeah. It's 1,000.
The parentheses are lined up with the millions, but the digits are not. It's in the 10,000.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? Well, I have a comment, and my comment is to staff for doing an incredible job. I know it was our first budget for several of us up here. We were not happy with a $1.1 million deficit, and to be able to recover from that nicely, we're confident that there's still a real structural problem with the budget, but a commendable job to the city manager and staff. So I'll say that. If there's nothing else from the council, anybody in the public like to comment on this particular issue?
I thank you for saying that, Mr. Mayor. I agree, and I don't know, this makes so much sense to me. It's all laid out really nicely, and I really appreciate the presentation as well. It was very well done. Thank you.
I want to send a big credit to David under your leadership, and even when you prepare this budget, 1.1 million, got a surprise because you are the new city manager. But when you explain very conservative for revenue side, very conservative for the expenses side, so I feel very comfortable. Right now, we got a 0.8 surplus.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we expect the same this year. So.
I appreciate that. I do want to acknowledge Chuck McBride, who came in the interim and just jumped in the middle of this with me. And he, as Prapti mentioned, quickly identified some of these immediate things to do and jumped on it. So I think without his quick action, and I think this would have turned out a little bit different. And staff did a great job pulling together and getting through the budget process. And now with Prapti here, we're in a really good spot. So
All right, great. Thank you. Is there a motion to be entertained?
I don't think we need a motion for it.
Oh, that's right. I was just receiving. Well received. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to item number 10. Second, comments from the public. Anybody from the public like to speak? What a beautiful night.